In Daniel 11:38, it says, but in his estate shall he honor the God of forces. Highlight that if you would. The God of forces. I want you guys to highlight that. Now, there are plenty of ancient names, and not to get into semantics here or linguistics regarding names. The God of forces is a God that's a strange God, a God his fathers knew not. We can establish something from this. A lot of people say, well, it's one of the ancient gods. No, it isn't. No, it's not one of the ancient gods. You got to read along with me to understand this. Daniel chapter 11 says this. I'm going to start 36. And a king shall do according to his will, and he shall exalt himself and magnify himself above every god. Let's stop right there. So if he magnifies himself above every god, first of all, to do that means that anything of authority, this guy is going to think himself to be above. Anything man appointed, any ancient god, anything, right? Anything known, he's going to appoint himself as being above. And it says, and he shall speak marvelous things against the God of gods, and shall prosper till the indignation be accomplished. And by the way, the indignation is the indignation of the Lord. He'll do this until the indignation of the Lord is accomplished. And why is this the indignation of the Lord? That is set in the book of Jeremiah. The indignation of the Lord is against the people in his land for what they did. And he said he would not turn away until his indignation is fulfilled. This is that incident of God's indignation of all the things on the earth. The trampling of Jerusalem underfoot for 42 months is in fact God's indignation. Right? So what is he doing here? He's allowing the beast to operate, to fulfill his indignation. And in that, to fulfill what he already stated in the book of Jeremiah, that he would not turn away until his indignation be fulfilled. It also says something else in the book of Revelation regarding this very fact. You guys ready? This is Revelation. We're going to turn to Revelation. And if you would follow me here, Revelation 17. Revelation 17 says, I'm going to start 16. And the horns which thou sawest upon the beast, these shall hate the whore, and shall make her desolate and naked, and shall eat her flesh and burn her with fire. For God hath put it in their hearts to fulfill his will. He put it in whose hearts? The 10 kings. The 10 kings, he put it in their hearts to fulfill his will. The 10 kings of what? Of the beast. You guys following me? God put it in. This is why you shouldn't fear Revelation at all. This is why you should be sober right now and never get caught up in the hype. As though some, crazy thing is going to happen and nobody's in control. That will never take place. So God hath put it in their hearts to fulfill his will and to agree, listen, and give their kingdom unto the beast until the words of God shall be fulfilled. And again, those words are for Jerusalem. The words are for Jerusalem. The words are not for New York. The words are not for Alabama. The words are not for Oklahoma. The words are not for South America, Brazil. The words are not for Bolivia, Paraguay. The words are not for Russia, right? China, Kazakhstan, and India. That's not what the words are for. The words are for Jerusalem. He put it in their hearts to fulfill his will. Listen, when he does this, until the words of God should be fulfilled, he's talking about the indignation he set forward in the book of Jeremiah. The 10 kings of the beast, God put it in their hearts to give their kingdom unto the beast 1 hour to fulfill his will, so that they will do what? What they're going to do in Daniel 11. When he puts it in their heart to fulfill his will, if you look back in Daniel 11, right, it states about this person that they will. It says, Daniel 11:31, and arms or armies shall stand on his part, and they, collectively, they shall pollute the sanctuary of strength, and shall take away the daily sacrifice, and they shall place the abomination that maketh desolate. God put it in their hearts. Even in the book of Daniel, it says this. If we back up one scripture, here it is. It says, for the ships of Shittim shall come against him. Therefore he shall be grieved and return and have indignation against the holy covenant. So shall he do. He shall even return and have intelligence with them, plural. Have intelligence or information with them. Somebody says he sends Apollyon. Apollyon does not open the pit. He didn't open the pit. Continue, stay on topic here, because you'll be lost in the sauce if you don't. So, and arms shall stand on his part, and they shall pollute the sanctuary of strength, and shall take away the daily sacrifice, and they shall place the abomination and make it desolate. That is an unholy alliance. Put together, right? Those who have indignation or hatred against the Holy Covenant. They have a vengeful thing they're going to do against the Holy Covenant. All those folks are going to get together in the Middle East right now. You know the countries that always said that Israel does not rightfully, they don't rightfully have rule in Israel, that they shouldn't be there, that that land was promised to somebody else. This is what the Muslims think. So at the core of that belief, there is a land dispute. All those countries are going to get together and go against Israel and win and take her over. And in Revelation 17, God puts it in their hearts so that this thing may command their countries to accomplish this. And they set up the abomination that make it desolate. And at that time, what did Jesus say? Those in Judea flee into the mountains. So they collectively run in there and set this thing up. Now, let's continue to read, because we're not going to get into, why that happened. We will get into it. Now, back in Daniel 11:36, we're going back here. It says, and a king shall do according to his will. It's talking about the guy that orchestrated the invasion of Jerusalem. And he will exalt himself and magnify himself above every god, and shall speak marvelous things against the God of gods, and shall prosper till the indignation be accomplished. For that is determined shall be done. Now, that is determined shall be done is a clear hint. Only God has power to do what he has determined to do. Nobody else has power. God even says so multiple times in the Bible, that nobody else has power to accomplish what they're saying they're going to accomplish, but only that God has power to do this. That means God can interrupt everything. Right? Only God has it. So that thing that is determined is why God put it in their hearts to fulfill his will, which is what? The trampling of Jerusalem underfoot 40 and 2 months. About this person worshiping a God, he worships the God of forces. It continues, it says, neither shall he regard the God of his fathers, nor the desire of a woman, nor regard any God, for he shall magnify himself above all. But in his estate shall he honor the God of forces. Here we go. And a God whom his fathers knew not shall he honor with gold, silver, and with precious stones and pleasant things. Thus shall he do in the most strongholds with a strange God, whom he shall acknowledge and increase with glory. And he shall cause them, I want you to highlight that word them, he shall cause them to rule over many, and shall divide the land for gain. Now I need you to listen. This is very important. You guys know I like context, right? Not bits and pieces of things. That if we pull out bits and pieces of things out of context, we're going to end up with a fractured word. I think that enough people have a fractured word, and thus their life reflects upon it, right? It's almost like their lives are invaded by darkness and they can't get rid of it. We're trying to put a halt to that. Most of that begins with having a fractured word, and it makes people powerless. You are not to be powerless. So we'll do all things in context here. Context is extremely important. In this case, we have narrowed down, we've read Daniel plenty of times, we're narrowing down on this God of forces. Now, here is describing what this God is. In the book of Revelation, it also describes it. Listen, if he's going to cause them to rule over many with a strange God, then what in the world is it? Well, it states what it is in the book of Revelation. So we're flip-flopping here, going back and forth, because we're narrowing in on this guy, but this is by no means fractured. So we have to have context for all of this, okay? Context. We can take nothing out of context. Nothing can be out of context, not ever. Now, amazingly, everybody, when this thing is working, right? In Revelation 13, we're going to read in 13. This is where it comes from. You ready? Now, Revelation 13:1, it talks about the first beast. Put this in your head, the first beast. Revelation 13:11 talks about the second beast, and it states this: and I beheld another beast coming up out of the earth, and he had two horns like a lamb, and he spake as a dragon. Revelation 13:1 through 4, which is the first beast. And the first beast had one of his heads as it were wounded to death, and his deadly wound was healed, and all the world wondered after the beast. That's the first beast. The first beast comes out of, it is formed out of the people of earth. So we know that the first beast are kingdoms on the earth. Right? The second beast is not a kingdom out of the earth, because he comes out of the land. Anything that comes out of the land was also described in the Old Testament as being what? Spiritual. It's a manifestation of sorts. So that think of something ascending out of the earth and entering into a man. This is what happens here, right? He has two horns like a lamb and spake as a dragon. What two horns like a lamb indicates a holy figure. That's what it indicates, a holy figure. Two horns like a lamb is that's a Hebrew description of a holy figure. So this guy, the second beast, is what most people call the false prophet. But here's where they made a mistake. I hear a lot of people say it's going to be the beast, right? As they say, let me see, what do they say? The dragon, the beast, and the false prophet. That's what they say. Not realizing that the second beast is the false prophet. And in the movies, they had the false prophet as some news reporter or something, and the first beast as the Antichrist. That's wrong. That's not what the Bible states. That is one of those theoretical narratives that's popular for Hollywood, but makes absolutely no sense, and is certainly taken out of context. That is a runaway teaching where the basis of it is all corrupted. And what that does is give somebody an idea, right, so they can promote movies. I even went back and retracted some notes of an author who said, well, if we do it this way, he can easily translate into a movie. And they'll approve it and give us some money to make the movie. But if we don't, they're not going to approve it and give us money to make the movie. Boy, what we end up doing for money, Lord help us. Anyway, this second beast has two horns like a lamb and spake as a dragon. A dragon, or draconian speech, is authoritative speech, legal speech, political speech. Right? And he exerciseth, this is Revelation 13:12, all the power of the first beast before him. Before him means the beast exists. So he exercises all the power of the first beast. How does a person exercise the power of a collection of nations? I'll tell you, when he rises to the position over them all. To exercise the power of a nation, you have to be appointed the ruler of that nation and exercise the power. So let's continue. So he exercises all the power of the first beast before him and causeth, now highlight this word cause, so we can get rid of a myth. He causes the earth and them that dwell therein to worship the first beast. Now let me pause here real quick. It didn't say he asks. That's not what it said. He causes. Causing somebody to do something, right? That's manipulation. That is to set things up so a person will end up doing something. This word in the Koine Greek is not causing, but it is an action word implying that a person is setting up something to make another one obey. Sounds like our world, doesn't it? Huh? Sounds like our world. He causes the earth and them that dwell therein to worship the first beast, whose deadly wound was healed. By the way, the deadly wound, one of the heads of the beast was wounded. It describes in Revelation 17 what the heads are. The heads are the 7 mountains or 7 nations. And one of those nations were as it were wounded to death, and it says by a sword. Sword means war. So one of the nations was wounded by war, a deadly wound, which means it fell in wartime and it looked like it would never rise again. But that nation did rise again. All right, you got that? Very simple. Very simple. Okay, so let's continue. And he doeth great wonders, so that he maketh fire come down from heaven on earth in sight of men. So imagine a holy figure rising up in the Middle East. Not anywhere else but the Middle East. Imagine this figure rising up in the Middle East. And it already tells of the nation he comes from, just so you know. He comes up from a small people, right? Well, that happens to be the term for a nation. I'm not going to mention that now because that requires context. You would fight it every step of the way because you've read a lot of books. I don't have the advantage of reading everybody's books, right? I don't do that. But he comes up from a small people. This guy, through flatteries, he wins the people over. But the people in power do not give him the honor of the kingdom. Right? So you have elected officials who don't give him the honor of the kingdom. That was stated in the book of Daniel, but the people like him there. And he does what nobody else has been able to do. He scatters among them the prey, the spoils, and the riches. So he causes them to prosper. Okay? He comes up from a small people. And it says he stays within the province. So he's doing what he does around the Middle East. And it foretells, see, the Bible often uses terms. God uses terms for nations. They're terms. Just like if you guys knew me personally, you might say, well, where's the nice guy at? Now, if you wrote that down, but it was a consensus that everybody knew me as the nice guy, then everybody would know who you're talking about. But on down the road, they would be like, well, they were looking for a guy called Nice Guy. Let's go find names that match Nice Guy. That's what they would do. And they would say, well, we don't have anybody named Nice Guy. We don't have a birth record or anything. No, that's because that depicts the person's character. And then it was agreed to who that person was. Now, God does the same thing. In the Bible, you'll see the same setup. All the information is there. The problem is, it must be discerned spiritually. You can't read this logically and apply it as you see it and extract the truth. Because you're going to get a story. You're going to get part of an outline, but you're not going to know who is who. Spiritually, you can know who is who. It's already there. It's already named. Because when you know it, the name is echoed. Small people is echoed in the Bible. And who it is echoed in the Bible. It's already in there. You don't need to guess. And see, this is the part that gets me. It's written in black and white. And it's almost like for all these years, people, they refuse to believe the word. And so they add their 2 cents, changing it. You know what God said to the nation of Israel when he delivered them? He said, do not add to or take away from what I'm telling you this day. That's what he said. Do not. Somebody says, please share. Nope. That's something you're going to have to find until we get to the study. Because if you knew who it was, you would state things out of context and get yourself in trouble. You have to have the background so you fully understand. You just can't name a place. And yes, it'd be that place, but your understanding will not be there. That's why God does what he does, right? Precept upon precept, line upon line, here a little, there a little. To have a direct answer to a question leaves you in a very unknowledgeable state. Because you may know who, but you don't know why. There's no spiritual connection. Thus, you don't have the truth. You don't have the truth. When you have the motive, when you have the decrees of the Father concerning this place, then you'll understand it and you can accept it. If you know the name, your flesh will fight it every step of the way, because the truth is you do know the name. But internally you reject who it is until you read certain things in the Bible. You already know who this place is, but you reject it. You reject it because you see certain places as described by men and not as they actually are. And we were talking about the woman that sits atop the beast. And one of the things I pointed out, you got all these pictures. I think I told somebody to grab some pictures, and they did. And in all the pictures, you got a woman with a sword riding a 7-headed dragon or something like that, right? That's wrong. The beast hates the woman. The woman is more like a flea on a dog, and the dog is scratching, trying to get it off, because it says the beast is going to burn her and burn her flesh. It hates her. It can't stand her. So there's no happy woman sitting atop a beast and they're good friends. No, that's Hollywood. You see how that imagery can mess up the Word of God and how people run away with it and they believe it's truth. That is not even close to the truth. That was only one thing. One thing. That woman, you already know who it is. But it's outright rejected because people don't understand. There's only one nation that can sit atop 7 mountains. No other nation can do this. A nation that the beast hates. It does not like her. It hates her. So it has been hated also. We already know the nation that's been hated. The beast is bad, and the beast hates this woman. That's a dead giveaway. She is the mother of harlots. It's not the U.S. The mother is the very first harlot. Not the second, not the third. The U.S. is a brand new nation. It cannot, the U.S. is not the mother of harlots. The mother of harlots had to be one bound to someone. There's only been one nation bound to a great someone. No other nation has been that way. See? But that's distasteful. When people hear that, they reject it. Why? They would rather believe a lie that gets them jumping around. Right? It's almost like you would rather, instead of drinking a nutritious drink, you'd rather have a soda pop with all the flavor than to drink something that tastes like lettuce and grass. But the lettuce and the grass drink will cause you to live. And the soda, while it tastes good, will increase the days of death that are coming for you, right? So it's going to deplete your life. It's going to kill nourishment and kill your system at the same time, but it tastes good. And in this day and age, people want things that taste good. They want the good stuff. Don't give me the true stuff. Give me the good stuff. I know this is healthy for me, but I don't want it. I want this pizza. Don't give me the nourishing stuff. You see, that's how people are. People are consistent through and through, and society tells you everything about a person you need to know. All you have to do is analyze society, and you'll see the people. If you don't know the people of a nation, all you have to do is look at society. Society is based and does indeed operate by what people want. So society is a reflection of what's inside the people, something they cannot deny. Let's continue. This thing does what? Back to Revelation. He exercises all the power of the first beast before him and causes the earth and them that dwell therein to worship the first beast, whose deadly wound was healed. Now, if he causes them to worship the first beast, and in Daniel we just read, in his stead he'll worship a strange God, a God his fathers knew as just a strange God. Then we see it right here. He's the one that causes everybody to worship the first beast. So what is this strange god. It's telling you right here. If the first beast is a collection of nations, and then he goes on and says, and he doth great wonders, so that he maketh fire come down from heaven inside of men, and deceived them that dwell on the earth by means of those miracles which he had power to do in sight of the beast. Listen, saying to them that dwell on the earth that they should make an image to the beast, which had the wound by a sword and did live. You see that? So he made the people of the earth erect a god that he worshipped. Boy, somebody's getting it. Let me continue. And they did this. And he had power to give life unto the image of the beast, that the image of the beast should speak, and it causes many that would not worship the image of the beast should be killed. I could tell you right now exactly what this is. But many of you don't have the context for it. It takes a precept for it to understand it. Because if I said it outright, it would ring true, but then you would know how that's ringing true, because you can't, if somebody lies to you internally, you're going to know it's a lie. But if somebody tells you the truth, it's going to confirm inside of you, but it will also cause confusion, because you cannot draw upon any learned information to make any sense of it. So let me put it this way. We're just talking about one phase of this now. This thing, this God that he worships, this strange God that he worships, in Revelation is showing us exactly what that God is. When you make an image to something, because in Daniel it says this. Now, keep your finger in Revelation 13:5. Let's go back to Daniel real quick. Daniel again. We're going back to Daniel again. Daniel 11. And in Daniel 11 it says, when it's talking about this thingy, right? It says, but in his estate shall he honor the God of forces, and a God whom his fathers knew not shall he honor with gold, silver, and with precious stones and pleasant things. Thus shall he do the most strongholds with a strange God, whom he shall increase, whom he shall acknowledge. That's a key word right there, acknowledge. Whom he shall acknowledge and increase with glory. It's a very important word, acknowledge. Daniel 11:39 is very telling, because he's going to acknowledge this thing. Now, when he acknowledges this thing and increases it with glory, he does something else. And he shall cause them, plural, more than one, them to rule over many. He shall divide the land for gain. He shall cause them to rule over many. What are the them? This strange God, he's going to acknowledge and increase with glory. This thing is something he made, and he's going to cause them to rule over many. What did it just say in Revelation? Because we're talking about the same thing here. But what did it say in Revelation? It said what? He had power to do what? What did he have power to do? And he had power to give life into the image of the beast, that the image of the beast should both speak, and cause as many as would not worship the image of the beast should be killed. He's the same one that gives life to the what? To the image of the beast. What did he just say in Revelation? That he told the world they should make an image to the beast. What is he doing here? And he had power to give life into the image of the beast. Who had power to give life into the image of the beast? Revelation 13:5. The Antichrist did. Then in the book of Daniel, let me get there real quick, guys. When we're in the book of Daniel, we can clearly see. With this strange God, which he increases with glory, and he acknowledges this thing, and he causes them to rule over many. The God of forces. He calls it the God of forces. Revelation tells us the second beast tells the world they should make an image to the first beast who had a deadly wound by a sword and did live. And he causes them, when they make this image, then he had power to give life into that thing, right? And Daniel is talking about the same guy. And it says, he's not going to regard the God of his fathers, nor the desire of a woman, nor any God, for he shall magnify himself above all, but in his estate shall he honor the God of forces. And a God whom his fathers knew not shall he honor with gold, silver, and with precious stones and pleasant things. Now, in Revelation, he points out, hey, you should make an image to the first beast. That's what he says. Why? Because he's acknowledging it. And he tells the world they should make an image to it. Then he gives life to it. Here, it says he's going to do something with a strange God, the God of forces, right? He's going to do what? Acknowledge and increase it with glory. He did the same thing in Revelation. So it's talking about the same thing. Revelation tells us what it is. The God his fathers knew not, which means it cannot be a God that anybody knew about previously. It must be a brand new God. But obviously it's a God that nobody knows about until he comes around and he makes people worship it, so nobody else was worshiping him. Which means it just popped up when he came on the scene. Which means he made that God for people to worship, because he made people to worship the image of the beast. The beast is the God he will make the world worship, just like they worship the shadow of it now. Right now, people worship it. Right now. Now, let me put this in context, because I know this is just messing. You know what? In fact, I can already tell that previous knowledge about this, right? Because you're going to have to take Daniel 11 and Revelation 13 and put them side by side. Because your brain is going to keep saying, no, that's not it. But somehow internally, you're saying, wait a minute, there's something there. So you're in conflict. I already know this. Because all the writings of everybody else is smashing you in the head, and all the statements everybody else made is in your mind. Trust what you're reading. Without interpretation, without anything else, you can see it with your own eyes. It's right here in front of your face. Right here. It's the exact same thing. Revelation denotes who it is. Tells you who it is, what the thing is. And if his fathers did not know it, it is not some God that anybody knows about. It came out when he came out. Okay? And in the most strongholds with a strange God, whom he shall acknowledge and increase with glory, he shall cause them to rule over many. This is when he causes as many as would not worship the beast, right, to die, because they receive a mark in the right hand and the forehead with the image of this thing. And it's more than one. It's not just one. They're put all over the place. Now, let me translate all this to you. What could be so new, this God of forces? What is this God of forces? What is this concept? What is it? If it's nothing his fathers knew, then it did not exist upon the face of the earth. And forces means God of forces. Well, that's quite revealing within itself, right? That's very revealing within itself. Extremely revealing. In fact, it was talked about in the Old Testament, the same thing. A warning went out about the same thing, right? Because this God of forces is equated with strength. Do you guys know that? A God of strength. But what's another thing for strength? Not a God you cannot see. Not a God that does not interact in your life, because this word strength meant present strength, which means something you can actually interact with. So they're not worshiping. Listen, let me get your mind here. We're not talking about a God that you get on your knees to and pray. We're not talking about our Father. Nor are we talking about a God you cannot see. But we're talking about a type of thing that you interact with every single day. A type of thing that yields in your life every single day. Oh my. Something that you live by. Something that you operate by. something sadly many have already committed to, something that is deadly, something very few know the history of, and it is brand new, but it's already here. Because this guy makes people make an image to it. And I'm telling you, that means the thing is already here. Something people follow right now. Now, we're not talking about an object. Nope. It must be intangible. It must be something you cannot touch, but something you interact with on a daily basis. Something you follow, something you bow to, something that governs your life. And it must govern your life right now. Something you're proud about, something you'll fight for, but again, something you cannot touch. It must be seeable, but you must not be able to see it in one place. You must see it everywhere. It must be in the realm of reality and not spiritual. We know it's not spiritual because all the other gods were spiritual. It must be tangible. It must be something people have instant consequences behind and rewards when in agreement to. It must be something right here. The beast is a collection of nations. The first beast is a collection of nations. He gives life unto the image of the beast. In the book of Daniel, this is an acknowledgement. Right? In Revelation, it's not called a god in Revelation, but it does say the world worshipped the beast. The world worshipped the beast. Now it says the world worshipped the first beast, who had a deadly wound by a sword or a country that fell by war, but it lived. So one of the nations involved in this collection of nations, an image is made to it. Common iconography we deal with today, and people worship it. But how do you do that? In Revelation, it clearly states that the world worshiped the beast. They worship the beast. That's what it says. So everybody should see it now. But if they worship the first beast, and in the book of Daniel, the world worships this. That's what he made for the world to worship. With the strange God. That's what the strange God is, a God that has not been previously known. A strange God would be something you wouldn't really call a God. That's why it's strange. It's unknown. It has no context. Anytime the Bible uses the word strange garments or strange God, it's speaking about something that is not known of. Yeah, we know by Revelation that he causes the world to worship the first beast. So we know that the first beast, the collection of nations, the 7 nations, are what people are worshiping. This is the strange God. A strange God. But it also says, he honors the God of forces. God on whom his fathers knew not shall he honor with gold, silver, and with precious stones and pleasant things. He honors that God, but he makes the world worship the first beast. How do you do that? Here we go. What is worship? Anybody know what worship is? Somebody tell me what worship is. I'll give you a short definition. It's voluntary observance. It's when no one really forces you, but you voluntarily observe something. They may teach you about it. but you voluntarily observe it. It also says they worship the dragon. Notice the word dragon is used, and the draconian system itself is used. And the dragon that had 7 heads is mirrored by the earthly beast who looks just like the dragon. So Satan copied his structure, made it in the earth, and that's what men follow. But they had been worshiping the dragon, which means the system had been set up a long time ago. Do people worship something in the earth right now? Let me tell it to you this way. After I tell this, because I'm not going to keep you long, right? I'm going to give it time to stew, and then we'll get back to it. Here it is. Money, somebody says money. Well, money is something that people will worship, yeah, but that's known about, right? Money can be easily cut off. This cannot be cut off. But let me talk to you about something. In comparison to the living God, there is something else in the world that men put before him all the time. There are ideologies of men that are propped up in this world. These ideologies are everywhere. And if a person dies who gave the ideology lives on. I want you guys to think about something I mentioned a long time ago. Something like the rule of law. The rule of law does not need a person to keep it because everybody keeps it. If a whole generation dies, another will be erected with the rule of law. We teach other people to keep the rule of law. In other words, I want you to think of the rule of law as a standard that outlives humans. In fact, presidents are impeached by it. A president can never be above it. They must obey it. In fact, the whole world must obey it. But the rule of law is something man-made. It's not divine. It's man-made. Right? With the rule of law is a lifestyle. A lifestyle that says you cannot bring faith into courts. You cannot make a recordable topic based upon speculation of spirit, but it must be fact or it does not exist. Only what can be seen can be acknowledged. People break their necks to position themselves in the world to get gain in this system. It's all over the world. All over the world. But more so in the Middle East than anywhere else. Let me introduce you to something. See, in the Middle East, there is the rule of law, and there's a type of constitution. And this constitution, if somebody makes an infraction, other people will seek to kill that person. Other people will. If someone does not obey it, bye-bye to that person. Anybody who does not obey it is killed. And guess what? Unless, just like this is the world though. Unless you agree to follow it, you cannot be a citizen anywhere on the earth. Isn't that funny? It's already here. If the rule of law demands something, it takes an interpreter, or let's just say a prophet of that rule of law, to enforce or to get somebody away from it. It forgives based upon conditions that are already written. So it has servitude already, and it outlives people. But there was always a missing element. A missing element that's coming in now is called science. A fact-based system that does not permit faith-based works. You can be sued for laying your hands upon somebody and they die through negligence. You can be locked up for praying for someone when the rule of law states they need something else. It overrides any authority on the earth. Doesn't matter who the authority is, it overrides it. And for the most part, each country worships their own constitution. And they will kill to keep it. They do whatever it demands. It protects great evils. It does. And it permits a way in the world based in competition, based in taking care of numero uno. It is a concept that has become real. It is a way of life that everybody's born into. It is a system that is inescapable. And if you're not part of that system, you can have no credentials. And if you have no credentials, you have no country. And if you have no country, what can you do? What can you or I do if we do not have a country? Which means if you're not a citizen of a place, if you cannot be ID'd, you won't be buying anything. You won't be selling anything, will you? So we know that part of the system everybody's looking for is already in play and is right here among us. And people have devoted themselves to it. In fact, just about all the fights you see on television are because of that system. They're not for any other reason. Each person interprets that system differently. They will fight to the death to keep it. And if the people get replaced, somebody else is born that will uphold it. So they have made it eternal. And now it lives by itself. It lives by itself because whether people follow it or not, it still exists. And someone will come along and be subservient to it. It has never existed before that way. Now that it's a global standard. And it rules over everybody. There you go. This thing, this man, is going to take it to a brand new level. Making an image to it, to the first beast. But within that first beast, if you're not, now listen, here's what's kind of somewhat spooky. Because right now, you could go and tell anybody, oh yes, I love this country and I love my country, this, that, and the other. But you see every day people out there blowing things up, terrorism. But terrorism was not enough to cause anybody to come up with a system to see if a person was really subservient or not. But domestic terrorism is. Listen to me carefully. Because now the enemy is within, right? It used to be the enemy was African American, or the enemy was Mexican or something like that, and the enemy was Middle Eastern. That's not the case now. Now you don't know who the enemy is. Domestic terrorism is on the rise. Now there's a need to know who's loyal to the system and who is not. Now we have artificial intelligence, but even before that was in play, do you not know a system was in place? The FBI, CIA, all government agencies have them. They don't use them all the time, but they have them. And when you speak to any official on the phone, it can tell if you're lying or not. You guys know that, right? They could tell through electronics if you were truthful or deceptive. So all you had to do was have a conversation. Well, with AI, it goes a lot further. Through trillions of data points, when you talk and your motion, speech, sweat, chemical of the body, everything is being analyzed all at one time. And now, with about a 98% accuracy rate, it can tell if your intent is truthful or not. So if you go up to one of these systems and you really are not going to serve it, but you're just trying to trick the system, and can tell you're not going to serve the system, or you're not going to do this, or you're not going to do that. It can tell with an accuracy rating that shouldn't be, because it analyzes the whole body, even the chemicals in your body. It analyzes everything. So it can look at you and see and tell if you're going to serve it or not. It can already tell that. Now take note that man could not give life into the image of the beast, but that man could. And when it says he can call fire down from heaven, it implies that he has extraordinary knowledge. Not so much miraculous powers, but extraordinary knowledge. And with this extraordinary knowledge came a breakthrough. When it's unleashed, your telephone and computers and everything else, they're going to always, right now, did anybody notice the interruptions in your communications? You all are familiar with the system. There's a system actually called the Beast, but there are two subsystems that were turned on. And your systems, many of you should have noticed like quirky things happening with your devices, like your device for the first time you turned it on or something. Right? And it was doing quirky stuff. You'd press one thing, something else would pop up, but it would, do a few quirky things, and all of a sudden it's back to normal. Your computer too, quirky stuff. As of last month, the machine conduit, I guess you could say, was actually enabled, meaning now through 5G, through fast communications, machines can update machines. Machines can talk to machines, which means if I had an AI computer here, and you connect it, or I connect it to you, I'm talking while I'm talking. If I say this one word, and the amount it takes me to say that one word, I can update your device, or your device can update me on at least 100 years of records in that short a time. What that means is all the data points of your device are now cloud-based, and all that information can be analyzed. And what comes out on the other side is a prediction system. The same trending system they've been working on for the last 15 to 20 years. The prediction system with AI, powerful AI. And CERN made the breakthrough for it. They really made the breakthrough for it. Because computer power versus power requirements was always an offset, a ratio that could hardly be filled, but now it's in the negative, meaning they have enough power to process everybody's thoughts in a fraction of a second. That's how powerful the computers are. I mean everybody's thoughts. Do you not know that a couple of years ago, scientists figured out how to take your memories and make a photograph of your memories based upon your brain waves of what you're seeing in your head. Think about that. So now all devices are sensors of you. All your devices are able to record all bio data. All these people wearing Fitbit and all these things, they're just reporting bio data. And what they're doing is they refine the system in buying all this gadgetry. And they have perfected a system they know nothing about. It takes only one person to enable the whole thing. There you have a predictive system, which means you're not going to fool it. Now, because of domestic terrorism, they want to know who's a loyal citizen and who is not. You will not be able to prove you're a loyal citizen. When this thing is brought to bear, it will determine what you are. And based upon it, you'll likely live or die, be locked up or not. Because if you're not able to buy or sell, then you're in jail. In fact, I looked at something in the Koine Greek of which that was originally written, and not being able to buy or sell was a direct correlation of somebody who was in prison. If you can't buy or sell, you're imprisoned. That means all your rights have been surrendered. You have no rights at all. This system, these things, ladies and gentlemen, all stem from the God of forces, a brand new God, something man created that happens to be useful. I see it as pure evil. Why? Because good people are dying for this evil system. You have people that believe in it. People that believe in it, not necessarily, they will hate the people and take human life for it. It's already had its sacrifices. When they go to war, you may not understand this, but to spill blood over an advisement from a system is weird. It's backward. That's what men are doing. They will say, or even in government, they say or they do not say based upon what? Predictive systems. That's why it can look like something is about to happen in the world and all of a sudden it changes directions. That's why things always change direction. They'll come out, oh, by the way, the word full stop is only spoken by those who understand exactly what I'm talking about. And it means exactly what it says. That means time is up. That's what it means. Time is up. You're going to hear that word echoed a lot, but those people you see on TV, even news broadcasters who have sat in meetings, you're going to hear them utter the word in desperation. It's going to come out of nowhere. They'll use any topic to say it to give a warning that time is up. Time is up means the system is on, the system is operational, and things will go forward fast. But there's something else, this God of forces. Now remember, the beast makes everybody in the world make an image to the first beast, and he causes them to worship that. What in the world is he doing? He's honoring the God of forces. It says he honors the God of forces. He worships himself, but he honors the God of forces. He upholds things from the God of forces. I know it's difficult. I know it's tough, right? Why do you guys think we're having some of our study, the nature of our studies are changing? And we will most certainly have diagrams for just about everything. Because when you see it, when you can read it, that's one thing, but when you see it, it clarifies quite a bit, and it gives you an instant reference to the truth. And because it's in context, nothing is going to be fragmented. You're not going to be lost in the sauce concerning these subjects. Because I know that right now, as I'm speaking, you're trying to put it together, but it seems like, I bet you confusion is in your mind. All the words of everybody else are bombarding you. All of your summaries of what somebody else said, and you're trying to put things, you don't have to put anything together because nothing was taken apart. You just need to know what your Father truly said, what's really written. Because you'll see it anyway. Now, some of you are probably like me, and humanity is still precious to you. You see, in my life, I care less about animals and trees and all that compared to humanity. I will never feed a dog before I feed a hungry human. That's just the type of person I am. I'm not one of those who's going to kill a person over an animal or a tree or anything else. But human life is sacred to me, because it is precious to the Father, and everything else is made for the sake of humanity. If you're thinking of it any other way, you put yourself in danger. If the apple of God's eye is not the apple of your eye, you're out of tune, and you're subject to do everything the God of forces requires. And by the way, because the God of forces, this thing honors the God of forces. It honors a method of life that manipulates other people into doing things. Since you have been born, you've been manipulated to do everything. It's not that you chose it. You've been forced into it. It is against the law for you not to have an education. And that's all over the earth. You're not going to sit home and not go to school and be educated in certain ways. You're not going to speak about it either. You don't dare speak about it. Because if you do, they'll hunt you down right now. You start working against the system, and I'll tell you something. It would be one thing if people fought for one another, but they don't. They fight to implement their part of the system. Open your eyes and see it. They're not fighting for their neighbor. They're fighting to implement their part of a system, not even knowing that all of it's part of a whole. Every single side is fighting not for you, but for a portion of the system they believe in. Haven't you noticed? What was all the talk over? They fought over something, and it was not you. They use you to promote the system. They scare you to promote the system. I'm just telling you the facts. I'm telling you the truth. But so many people cannot see it because the knowledge of God is lost. The system is everything to them. They're handing people peanuts, and they complain about that. Somebody did the mathematics, and it's a true statement. Listen to this. What do you think it would take for America to actually go broke? Anybody know? Anybody? There's some high-level folks out there, and they all have a consensus. Yeah, I hear stuff like this, and you don't really talk about it because people believe in something else. Number one, you guys believe in money. Right? You believe that money really makes a difference. No, it doesn't. Makes a difference in your life, not their lives. They don't need money. Just so you know. Just so you know. It seems more like this world and this lifestyle is a delusion. And the fruit of it is murder. Through murder it was born. Through oppression and slavery and murder and manipulation it was born. It was born in iniquity. It will perish in iniquity. We have a habit, right? We were brought up to see it from the outside, not knowing what was on the inside, nor did we know what it takes to keep it running. It requires the blood of people, the sweat of people, the determination of people. That's what it requires. See, God's kingdom, you don't have to slay 5 people to have a good thing. No. But the world taught you that you did. This God of forces, this forceful, if we just talk about the forces side, do you not know that you've been raised to operate by this very thing? Let me give you an example. To not operate by manipulation, to not force a person to do something, right, is to have a person react on a voluntary basis of their own choice. That's not how the world works. You know what the world says? They give you A and B, and they say, choose one. Now, A is still in the system, and B is in the system, but they tell you to choose one. That's just like people who come to America, they say, well, are you a Democrat or a Republican? That's what they say. Don't they? Are you a Democrat, Republican? That's what they'll say. And then based upon how you see the system, you'll choose one or the other. But both are of that system. Think of American democracy and think Middle East. You begin to see it. The only difference is, in the Middle East, it's going to be harsh. And it will not be democracy. It's going to be something else. Either way, people worship what man has built. It is embedded into society, and almost without God, it's impossible to break free. You cannot break free. How many times in society did you have to push everything of God aside for the sake of work? How many still work on Sunday when God said, keep the Sabbath day and make it holy? But the Pope recently, they stated they changed the Sabbath day from Saturday to Sunday. And everything man built, listen, a lot of people think, well, this world is, that stuff is good if people would just follow it. Let me give you a hint. When Jesus comes back, he's going to undo everything man did. He will not use anything that man did. It does not exist in his kingdom. So if he's going to undo it, then it can't be good, because if something is truly good, it will also last and permeate into or translate into eternity. It is not good. It's a system of control that is very seldom recognized as such. Look at the vaccines. People say, well, when the mask came out, people said, well, this is taking away my rights. What is? To wear a mask? I have to wear the mask? Yes. You also have to wear shoes and underwear and pants when you go in a store. You're not going to go in a store stripped, are you? You have to wear clothes. Nobody complains about that. Why? Because they want to do it. They want to show their clothes off. They want to wear something to express themselves. A mask is something where you cannot express yourself. So nobody wants anything they cannot express themselves over, right? But they don't argue about anything else, do they? You guys remember when the seatbelts came out? What did they say? It's against I have a right not to wear the seatbelt. You guys remember that? You remember that? Remember they kicked smoking out of restaurants, and people filed they try to sue people for not allowing them to smoke in restaurants. And you know what they said? They said I have rights. I have a right to smoke in this restaurant. That's like me coming to your house and saying, I have a right to get drunk in your living room. No, I do not. But do you guys remember the arguments? Do you see how we're having the same arguments? But the basis of it, the subject of it has changed. Same old story. Do you see how nothing really changes? Nothing really advances. We just have different topics, but we do the same things over the different topics. What has us trapped so bad that, number one, we can't even see it? Number two, many people they refuse to acknowledge it. And number three, many people are sold out to it. If we would just hear the truth, we'd learn a lot, just like historically. If you would historically hear all the complaints people made about what they had to do to wear a seatbelt. People got mad when they had to wear shoes in a store. People got mad when they had to wear a shirt in a store. They got mad when they couldn't smoke in certain areas. They got angry when they couldn't buy alcohol 7 days a week. Do you see what I'm saying? It's the same old thing. But in all cases, what are they doing? Who do they say they get their rights from? The same place that told them they couldn't do it. Isn't that funny? If I gave you a right to scream, but I took away the right to scream, how in the world could you complain? That's why I tell everybody I meet, God gives me my rights, not man. God does. So my life is not hinged upon what man gave me, but because people worship the works of their own hands. That means what they wrote, what they installed, because they worship it and cause others to also worship it, which was spoken about by the prophets over and over and over again, even warned about by the living God over and over and over again. It's almost invisible in our day and age. It's thought of as nothing when it's everything. And people do exactly. Look at all these strange holidays they come up with. National Pancake Day, National this, that, and the other day. And do you not know People say that they're doing what they say the other day, their patriotic duty to have hot dog day or something like that they were having. Right? And that people who did not do those things, they should be kicked out of the country. People have strong feelings behind it, and they will kill you for it over something foolish. This is what the world has become. How do we get back to where we were? How do we do that? Well, the hardest job is to get a person to see again. Christ will do that. He will restore sight to the blind. He commissions us to do the same. To see what? To see the truth. Not to operate in darkness anymore, not knowing the truth, but living your life, but to open your eyes and to see the truth and live with sight.